few troubles there still be, but still become imagination. Take my hand and fly with me on a trans-world transportation.
There's a man on the wing of the plane!
It's a woman!
It's a man!
It's a woman!
It's a man!
I believe they call them drag queens.
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. Just to be clear, there are men masquerading as women and depictions of bestiality in Meg Thee Stallion's new video. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Edward Scissorhands and Alice in Wonderland. Okay. Let's travel down the rabbit hole then. Hello? Down the rabbit hole describes the act of journeying into a bizarre or disorienting environment that is difficult to remove oneself from. A person may say he has gone down the rabbit hole or fallen down the rabbit hole when he finds himself in a situation that is surreal or extremely odd. I often talk about on this channel how Europeans are attempting to recreate Greek and Roman society and how they are using entertainers, specifically in the Black community, to push these narratives. Now, I just want to start out by saying this is not a commentary on Meg Thee Stallion. I could care less about her as an individual, but what I do care about is the use of her music and her assets to push homosexuality, cross-dressing, gender bending, and bestiality on the Black community. And what's really shocking is nobody's talking about this. I can't be the only one that noticed the many, many, many things that were very twisted and very wrong with this video. But perhaps that's a sign of how far gone our community is. We can't tell men from women. We don't think it's weird when there's 6 guys writhing in women's clothing and hopping up on poles and twerking and smacking Megan on her butt. We don't think it's weird when they mix male and female bodies in the same dance routine and have the guys twerking in a thong along with the girls. We don't think it's weird when the Cheshire Cat reaches into Megan's vaginal canal, basically, and smiles as if he's about to get some, or spanks her little bottom. No, none of those things are a problem. Because Young Thug, who I'm pretty sure had on a dress at some point, oh, I stand corrected, who has worn a dress many times, children's dresses, women's dresses, tutus. He's just a happy little Fruit Loop, isn't he? Is got Edward Scissorhands on, and that's so cool. And Megan, she wore the cutest outfits ever, so nothing to see here. Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that Young Thug and Megan Thee Stallion are in a video that's pushing gender-bending homosexuality and bestiality. So we should probably talk about this. So the video starts off with what I imagine is supposed to be some perverted version of the Cheshire Cat, who's smoking a cigar much like Jay-Z did for Beyonce in her Partition video. So it's like an ode to that, but with a cat. And the cat is smoking a cigar and watching a burlesque performance where Megan is sitting on, of course, a horse, because that's such a brilliant play on the word stallion. And what we immediately notice is that there's something amiss with the other burlesque dancers. So the first dancer that appears is a dancer that is clad in a bodysuit that is very sparkly. And you'll notice that the dancer's face is covered. However, as the dancer comes in from the dark and goes into the light, we notice that the body of this person is not a female body. It's in fact a man in a cat suit, dressed like a woman. But don't take my word for it, because they want you to know on some level these are men, because obviously you being attracted to men smacking their butt cheeks together doesn't really count unless there's been some open indication of what you're seeing that you choose to ignore. So then there's a very quick clip showing two of the main dancers, and these dancers are actually used in the twerking scene where they have men and women mixed up, always back facing the camera, hats, things covering their faces, because we know that mystery and deception is a big part of these videos. But there's a quick flash where we see that there is a white and a black cross-dressing team. They're both men. I don't think these are transgenders. I think they're actual cross-dressers, maybe drag queens or something like that. And they are brought into frame dark, and then they're brought into frame light. It moves so quickly that without me stopping the video, you might not have realized that you were looking at two men. Without me stopping the video, you might not have realized that you were looking at two men. But in fact, you are. The white man has a short brown haircut with a blonde front on it, and the black man's hair is done in a longer style. But these are clearly men, and they're wearing an identical suit to the original man that opened up the video. You know, the cat suit with sparkles all over it. And all of these cat-suited men with bras and things, mind you, on, are now going to proceed to dance all around Megan in an erotic circle of gender-bending nudity. Before you can hone into what you're seeing, they make sure to show lots of colorful pictures, Megan in very sexy attire, because they don't want you to focus too much on the fact that you've just watched a bunch of men writhe all over the floor. Then they cut back to a scene and you see Megan in a room completely surrounded by masked men who are dressed in the original catsuit attire. Of course they're masked because the reality is you're supposed to be so hypersexualized and so distracted by Megan's body and the fact that you like her songs and the fact that you've been conditioned to basically suck up whatever the Jewish-owned media puts forth. Oh wait, I can't say that, but yeah, maybe I'll vet that with some facts so that nobody can come for me. So I said I would come with receipts that this was white Jewish fact, and I'm going to do just that. On the surface, it looks very blackety black, right? You have Buddha Bless, and you also have Kevin Liles, who is the CEO of the label that Meg Thee Stallion is signed to, which is 300 Entertainment. But despite the fact that Buddha Bless, who I could do a whole separate video on, but I won't go there today, produced, which is shocking considering the level of homosexuality in this video, but also wrote the song for Megan. Despite that, and despite the fact that Kevin Liles is the paid frontman for 300 Entertainment, who is a mock independent label, the founders of 300 Entertainment are none other than Lawyer Cohen, Todd Mousewitz, and Roger Gold. And it's worth noting that although these men have their hands in a lot of pots, we have to remember that Todd Mousewitz in particular was the co-president and CEO of Warner Brothers Records and did a takeover of Def Jam. So this is major industry masquerading as independent and with black frontmen. pushing a homosexual agenda to the Black community. Because, of course, there would not actually be Black money behind this. But I digress. Jewish controlled media is a video that I plan to do in the future. It's taken me a lot of time. I've been doing a lot of research, but this is just one good example of a bunch of Black faces that are nothing but puppets for an agenda that has nothing to do with Blackness whatsoever. So you're supposed to be so enthralled with the song that you completely ignore the fact that she's surrounded by men who are basically stripping for you on poles. Of course, specifically for the men, you're supposed to be fixated on people that kind of resemble women if you're not paying attention, doing sexy things, because obviously, if you're turned on, you're not thinking, and they're counting on that. And as far as women, you've been told to value your bodies. So seeing a woman being extremely sexy, you can kind of teleport yourself into that place where you too are extremely sexy. And so you as well are not paying attention to the fact that this woman is on a horse surrounded by men in leotards that are dancing like women without anybody disclosing it. So we also see that the cat, the Cheshire cat, which is clearly demonic with his glowing eyes, is dancing in the midst of this. And I'm saying his, but the cat could be male or female. This is an ode to cat demons. And I know that sounds weird, but this is a historical fact. So for those of you who aren't aware about feline demons, let's go ahead and just discuss this, because we have this feline demon creature that eventually is going to attempt to copulate with Megan later in the video, dancing around like a nutcase in the middle of Megan and all of these men that have their faces clad, because much like a homosexual club of holes, which for those of you that don't know is a club where you simply go put your penis in a hole and have sex with whatever's on the other side, it doesn't matter what's behind the masks. What matters is that they're writhing on poles and you're turned on. We then have that background behind Megan, which is not a checkerboard background, but what it is it's a background that is much like a kaleidoscope, but a hypnotic kaleidoscope. And for those of you who aren't aware, I'm going to just give a brief history on the use of those colors of black and white, the kaleidoscope look, kind of spinning and being used for hypnotism. Something I didn't mention in my original commentary, but I do feel that I ought to interject here, is that as of around the mid-2000s or early 2000s, there have been a series of new experiments that utilize brain imaging technology, and they found that people who were hypnotized perceived colors even when color was not used, and they lost the ability to make even the most simple decisions. I think this is very relevant when we talk about visual media like videos. Now, it's also important as we are seeing the gender bending aspect of this, as the screen flips from men dressed as women to these black and white hypnotic kaleidoscope-like backgrounds, that's something else that was observed by the neuroscientists who were conducting these experiments, specifically at the University of Oregon, was that the perceptions of the hypnotized people could be manipulated by their expectations. Now, if your expectation is that somebody that's dressed as a woman and looks like a woman and is dancing like a woman and is in a video with a woman, that those people would be women, then your perception of those people, which explains like why I posted this on my community tab and so many people just basically didn't respond. So many people had not realized that it was a video full of men. Because when you're in a hypnotic state with a high flicker fusion threshold, with the hypnotic backgrounds blended with the gender bending backgrounds, then your general perception of what you're seeing is manipulated by what you expect to see, by your expectations. And this has been backed with hypnotic science. Like I said, I'm specifically quoting Michael Posner, who is a professor of neuroscience at the University of Oregon, in dealing with perceptions and color relation in those people who are highly susceptible to hypnosis, which you will have 1 out of 5 people who is not susceptible at all, but 4 out of 5 people will at least be midway susceptible, and some people are very susceptible, right? So any variation of those 4 people left could be highly susceptible to hypnosis. So this is something to consider when you're watching something like a video that on the surface seems to be there to entertain you, but can actually be used to manipulate your perceptions of reality and place you into a hypnotic trance where you then can have behaviors, ideologies, etc., inserted into your psyche without you recognizing it. You're going to start seeing a pattern in this video. It flashes from scenes of men doing sexual things that we associate with women and dress like women to scenes of Megan and this kaleidoscope kind of hypnotic background of black and white that's spinning. And these breaks are meant to break up what you're truly seeing in the video. Again, as many men as were dancing in this video as women, I just find it hard to believe there's absolutely no discussion about this. So then it cuts to a rave scene. And this is the point in the video where even if you can't tell a woman's body from a man's body, the gay dancing should have given this away. It could be that I'm from San Francisco and I've seen enough gay dudes Vogue to know what I'm looking at, but this is clearly a gay dance and these are clearly men doing it. And of course we flip back to the hypnotic background because you just saw something that clearly gave up what you were looking at, but don't mind that. Megan's got on a latex pink and purple getup, and that's all that really matters. So now Megan descends from the horse that she's sitting on. Again, a play on the word stallion. And I don't think that Megan is a man, but I do think that people love the fact that she is a rather large woman who named herself Megan the Stallion. And they love the idea of merging this kind of confusion that's surrounding her gender with a man who truly likes to gender bend like Young Thug. So really, this video, we should have seen this coming. Nevertheless, Megan descends off of her horse and she now joins the copulation dance that the drag queens, we can never keep it straight, drag queens, that they're doing. And they start to form a line and smack each other's butts. But before they get to the butt smacking, Megan shows that she's going to emulate what these men are doing. And they do another dance that's really popular among gays where they're kind of down on the floor with their knees and doing a little arm thing. Like I said, maybe you have to be from San Francisco to be aware that these things exist, but they do, and these are dances that are really common in gay clubs. And if you've ever watched a group of gay people dance, you'll know what I mean. So the black woman is now imitating the gay men, which honestly, this scene doesn't really surprise me because black women are encouraged to mimic gay men. We're encouraged to do so with our makeup, and specifically not homosexual men, but specifically drag kings or drag queens. Sorry. I could be more hip with the lingo. But specifically, we are encouraged to mimic drag queens with their hairstyles, the wigs, right? These lace front wigs, which we won't talk about, you know, if women should be wearing them or not. Can we just acknowledge that the drag queens were doing it first? Okay, editing Irene here. I just wanted to interject for those people who are going to be like, well, in Egypt, we wore wigs. Well, first of all, if you are an American black person, it's highly doubtful your ancestors are from Egypt. But even if your ancestors were from Egypt, Egypt Egyptian wigs were a very different thing from European wigs, and the lace wigs that we wear today are a European construct. They were extremely popular in early Europe, and they were popular in Western civilization here in the United States as well. I don't see anybody rocking Afro bobs with dreads and braids like they did in ancient Egypt, so I don't want to go there. I just want to say that the modern trend of lace wigs can absolutely, positively be drawn to drag queens, as well as the big fake eyelashes and a number of other things that have become extremely trendy with Black women. Right? They were rocking these lace front wigs. They were doing the really ornate makeup, the 15 layers of makeup. They were doing it to cover up their stubble and all of this. But we have been taught to literally make ourselves look like them. So to do our makeup like them, to do our hair like them, and a lot of what is popularized by YouTubers like Jackie Ina, and don't come for me, I like Jackie. I just recognize that the look that she puts forth is drag queen makeup. But with all that said, Megan is following suit. She's gonna do the dance with the drag queens, and then they're basically gonna start spanking each other. And so it goes into this whole montage of just this disgusting montage of men dressed as women dancing, and then of course they put a woman's body there. So jiggle, jiggle, big butt. Now you're not paying attention, because really what matters once you get a half-naked woman in the mix? Yeah. We'll kind of skip over Young Thug's part. Suffice it to say, he's just there to be cool, to add to the gender bending conversation, because we know how Young Thug rolls. And honestly, just to be a distraction, because remember, nobody's talking about all of the gender bending going on in this video, or the fact that there are men being portrayed as women without letting anybody know. Everybody's talking about Young Thug's scissor hands, because we are just that collectively based on our analyzation, which I don't know if I am more saddened by that or disturbed by it. Now, again, skipping over the Young Thug part, we get to the Alice in Wonderland direct, sort of unmistakable association that's being made. And they have Megan come out, gyrate, her tits are pushed up to high heaven, which I like some cleavage, so I'm not knocking. But what I will say is that they're doing it for a reason. They're doing it to distract you from the fact that they've carefully organized a group of men and women, dressed them all alike, and so now you're going to have groups of women twerking with the same men that we saw in the previous scenes. And because you're so conditioned to just like the sight of asses jiggling, you don't recognize that some of these arses are men's. I'm curious how many men watched this video and realized that part of what was turning them on were other men's butts. Now I want to stop here. The two dancers that are directly behind Megan are the two men from earlier in the video. I'll flash back to them if you forgot them. So these two men are her direct backup dancers. In the frame, there's also some Build-A-Body girls, and I'm not knocking the Build-A-Bodies, I'm just trying to draw a correlation of what is represented. What's represented are surgically augmented women and men dressed as women. And if you think you can't snatch a penis to the point that you can wear a thong, well, why don't I just throw up a little clip to show you guys that this is very possible.
And today's video is going to be me telling you all how to tuck for a bikini. Here's the drawing, and you have a transgender woman. Here are the two balls, as you can see. I don't want to show you guys like me actually like taping my stuff, because like that's rated R, and this is not Pornhub. Guys, so this is bathing suit number 1. This was from Icon Swim. I know this is not a bathing suit haul, but I want you guys to see like from every angle how the bottoms look. Literally looks so good. You can't see any of the tape on the side. And a little trick that I use if I have like razor bumps here is I put some makeup and then some powder. It works so good. But as you can see, nothing is showing on the sides. It looks completely flat as what I'm concerned. And that's why I usually use 3 strips when I'm using a bathing suit. But if I'm wearing like pants or like high-waisted shorts or regular shorts, doesn't matter, I'll use 4 strips of tape to cover the area downstairs, because I know that nothing's going to show, because all of this will be covered. And so I don't care if anything's sticking out or looking uneven, because then it's not going to show regardless.
I also want to note that, notice that all the faces are covered. They do this so that you can't tell who's a man and who's a woman, to kind of mess up your psyche. If you're turned on by the whole scene, then arguably, maybe you swing more ways than you think. After all, people are just people, and gender is flexible. So at a close count, Megan has 6 backup dancers, and 4 of those backup dancers are definitely positively men. You see them now dancing on a traditional checkerboard floor, which I'm going to leave it to those people who analyze these kinds of things to analyze that. I'm purely here to demonstrate the blatant homosexuality and gender bending that's being pushed with Megan's fat behind. There's a reason that they chose butts too. Look, go down the rabbit hole of my mind. When I think of identifying characteristics of women, I think about what is the first thing that men who try to emulate women try to reproduce. And it's not our butts, it's these. Because outside of our internal organs, the most telltale sign of a woman is going to be her breasts. So it's interesting that most of the scenes in this part of the video are of their buttocks, because you've been conditioned to just be attracted to butts in general. I think in the Pop That Man Pussy video, which I'll try to put in a clip of, they did the same thing. They did a lot of focusing on the legs and the butts, because you've been conditioned to be attracted to legs and butts. Therefore, you're not looking at the rest of the woman's body. And this is probably the reason so many people were able to watch this video and simply just gloss over the fact that almost every woman in the video was a whole man, and not even a post-op man, just a regular man who's snatching his penis and putting on an A-cup padded bra, or sometimes no padding. That was pretty interesting too, the ones that didn't have any padding. But whatever, I mean, Megan's jiggling her butt, I can see her thighs moving, and so I'm far too distracted by that sexy scene to properly analyze the level of conditioning that's being pushed upon me in this video. And so then it starts to switch back from the original scene to this next copulation scene that's going on. It's really just a lot of men dancing sexy around Megan. Is there more that I can say? Yes. Why don't we fast forward to the bestiality portion of this video? Because if you thought it was enough just to gender bend throughout the whole video and get you all confused about what you're looking at, oh no. No, we couldn't stop there. See, the introduction of bestiality was the opening, when the Cheshire Cat was sitting watching this whole display of debauchery. But there are some other key elements. For example, there's an ode to Zeus, who raped a woman when he presented himself as a swan in the beginning of the video. And then if we weren't sure enough, the demon cat comes back to let us know that, nah, I'm gonna get up in this vagina. So yeah, that cat's just going at smacking her butt. Isn't that sexy? So sexy. So I know what you're saying. Irene, you're making too much out of this. And maybe I am. Or maybe you're not making enough out of it. Perhaps the world has moved on to a place where as long as somebody's twerking in a video, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. So just get off on those butts, you guys. As long as they're jiggling, I guess they're good for you. But as for me, I don't appreciate having visuals manipulated. And although Meg Thee Stallion is not a person that I listen to, what I do recognize is that the social conditioning that goes on around me, that people do succumb to, it will affect me eventually. And because of that, I had to do this video. So fine, be a Megan Thee Stallion fan. Maybe this was all a fluke. But I hardly think such a high budget video that's being pushed and pandered to Black people was a fluke. Do I think Megan is intelligent enough to have pulled this off? No. I'm not saying that she's stupid. I'm just saying that somebody that chooses to twerk during college instead of focus on her classes, and a young woman who, the last I heard her talk about, dropped out of college because obviously she can't keep up hot girlness and education at the same time, that her art is rapping and twerking. Her art is not video analyzation and creation. So I don't blame her for this video per se, because she's just catching a bag. But I definitely think we can't look past the manipulation that's here. And although she is beautiful and she is one of us, she is a pawn in a game that's far bigger than her music or her love for twerking. They're using her to infiltrate our ranks. And for all the men who watched that video and were getting off on the butts that they saw there, I just want you to ask yourself, when is the last time 6 man butts turned you on this much? And how comfortable are you with the fact that you just discovered you like a man's ass as much as you like a woman's?